budgeting completely changed my marriage. Now, a budget was the tool that helped me communicate with my wife about money. Before we had a budget, we had our separate accounts and money was kind of mine. My money was mine and her money was hers. And it worked for us until I proposed. When I proposed, I was basically saying I want to commit the rest of my life with you, but also I want to build the rest of my life with you. So I also proposed the idea, not straight away, but after I proposed the idea of joining our bank accounts. Now, with that, we had a budget, because what was happening is we're joining our expenses and we have like 2 sets of morals and 2 sets of how we want to approach our spending, and we're joining it into one. So we had to make sure we were clear with the direction that we wanted to use our money, and that the purpose of what the money was doing was what we agreed with. So we started the budget. Now, a budget to a lot of people sounds restrictive. And when I pitched the idea to my partner, she was a bit like, I don't want to cut certain things away from my life. And fair enough. And to begin with, like we did, when we looked at our money, we did cut a few expenses to be able to save for things that we cared about. But a budget isn't really about being restrictive. What it is it's looking at your month ahead and giving yourself permission, right? You give yourself permission to spend on the things that you actually care about. Okay, so before we started the budget, we kind of were looking at how much we actually spent, and we were like, well, probably not that much, but yet we still didn't know where our money went. When we looked at our money and where it was going, we were surprised with how our spending wasn't necessarily aligned with our values. So we were spending probably more on eating out than we actually cared about. You know, there was probably more subscriptions than we cared about, and there was just like miscellaneous expenses that just were going to things that were just like convenience. So when we got the budget, what happened is every month or every end of the month or start of the month, we would review how we spent our money. We would see if it was actually in line with what we value, and then we would plan our month ahead. Not only were we talking about our money, we were making sure they were aligned with our values, we were actually looking ahead for what our month looked like. So we're not only planning our time better, we're planning our money better, and we're making sure they were actually aligned with our values. Now, to begin with, the budget was quite restrictive. We took away our coffee budget, our restaurant budget. We tried to streamline groceries, all those type of bills that we could negotiate with. We tried to get it down as low as possible, but then we went like hyper focused on what we want in life and what our long-term goals are. We were able to pay off our debts because we were aligned with, okay, like this extra money we can put here, and together we had 2 incomes working together. Now, what that actually allowed us to do is we sacrificed, it was a few months, if not a year, of being a little bit restrictive, being very mindful, counting every dollar. But now we got to a place where we were able to create some financial stability because we were so open. We were communicating with what our actual long-term goals were. And now we're able to do the things we care about. We're able to put away like a generous amount for our holiday budget. And that's like one of our biggest values. You know, we're putting a little bit extra on our mortgage because home is probably the thing we care about the most. Home and family. Now we want like travel, we want experiences. And that would not have been possible if we weren't communicating, we weren't looking at every single dollar we had, we weren't allocating every dollar we had at the start of the month, and it had a purpose before it even hit our bank account. We've also started to eliminate guilt in spending. Now, to begin with, the budget does bring a little bit of guilt because you want to make sure that all that money has purpose. But if you're able to make that sacrifice, you're able to then move forwards and spend money intentionally. And when it's intentional, guilt is removed. If you give yourself permission to spend X on something that you value, then you're not going to feel guilty about it, especially if you have gone through an appropriate system to eliminate like debt, to build an emergency fund, all that type of stuff. But none of that would have been possible if we didn't start budgeting in the first place. Now, let me know, have you started a budget? Have you thought about a budget? Have you thought about talking to your partner about starting a budget? Now, that was quite nervous, and I didn't want to come off controlling. Right? It's about permission. It's about communicating between you and your partner and giving yourself permission to move towards the goals that you have in life. Right? And it's too short to just let fate and spend things randomly. You got to be intentional. And if you are, you can reach those goals a lot faster than you think you can. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Drop a comment. Let me know. Like if you agree, if you don't agree, if you have separate accounts, like let me know what works for you. It's interesting. Alright, thanks for watching.